So we just begin with a couple of newspaper clippings that Tony Price recorded referring to the closure of the Western Rail Corridor, which was in April 1976. And so we open up at 6 Mile Bridge and we see a classic WRC train, GM diesel, 2 carriages and a heating van either side. That station closed in 1963, so that's why it didn't stop there. And this is Ballycar, which was still a block post in the mid-1970s. And we see the signalman exchanging staffs here with a WRC train. Ballycar closed as a block post in November 1982. There is still a siding up until the mid-1970s serving a tar depot for the county council. Castle again. This is all shot between Limerick and Ennis, which is a long single track section with very few passing loops, just loop sidings. Clare Castle was closed in December 1981. It had closed in 1963, but it was completely closed in 1981. That's Ennis. Train from Limerick running round. And we move to Ardrahan, and this is Columbo, signalman Tony Nyland's dog, which you'll see possesses great skills as a signalman in assisting the exchange of the staffs. So a train from the Claremorris direction arrives, heading for Limerick behind B151. You see the driver is well used to this sort of practice. Station that was still open for passenger traffic, unlike some of the other stations which had closed in 1963. I think it also remained open for beat traffic some years after the passenger services had ended. I believe the name of that guard is Tommy Coughlin. And on the left, you can see those wagons. That isn't a goods train. I'm fairly sure that's condemned wagon stock, which lay in the loop siding at Ardratton for many years. And this is Crockwell, one of the other minor stations on the Western Rail Corridor. And as some of you know, both Ardratton and Crockwell, those stations have since reopened in 2010 when the line between Ennis and Limerick was reinstated. Although the stations themselves, the new ones, are located a little bit south of each of the original stations. That's the remains of the signal cabin on the left there. There's a clip you'll see much later on which shows that cabin in place. Now this is Ballyglunin, otherwise known as Castletown in the 1950, was it 51, 52 film The Quiet Man. And again, this station was also open for passenger traffic for the Western Rail Corridor, closed up in 1976. The crosses you noticed on the signal arms, Ballyglunin was only switched in during the beat season. And I'm not a bus expert, but I think that's what they call a C-class bus. Leyland Leopard, maybe, I'm not sure. So we moved to Tuam, which is probably the largest town, one of the largest ones anyway, on the WRC. This one being located between Athenry and Claremorris. So we see the station gates being opened and a train from Limerick. Unfortunately, as someone myself looking at these particular films many years after they were recorded, I think Tony Price would almost certainly be able to tell you the names of the driver and guards, but I just have to now kind of rely on other people being able to tell me this myself. Here we have a similar scene, but this time a northbound goods working passes through Tuam. Behind B155. Plenty of sundries wagons, the H vans, a back-to-back fertilizer, and of course the brake van. At the rear, 30-ton brake van. And this is north of Tuam, near Milltown. This is the signalman at Milltown station itself. That was a particular trait of Tony Price. He would film the nameplates like on a sign before actually going to record the actual particular scene. And here comes a Limerick-bound train, this time of an even shorter formation of just generator van and a single carriage. That B191, that engine was the locomotive that I think ran away at Clonsilla in the early 1990s and was wrecked. And as anyone knows, there's plenty of level crossings on the Western Rail Corridor, including many open ones, just like that, user-operated gates. So another shot at Milltown. Shot just a year or so before the station closed as a block post. It closed in May 1977 is when the signal cabin was closed. That's the goods train that we saw a little earlier that was passing through Tuam. And here we see the same train coming off the Western Rail Corridor onto the Mayo Road at Claremorris. And now we're going to take a trip from Tuam down to the junction at Athenry, and we're going to see some of the permutations that were carried out at Athenry station just before passenger services ceased between Limerick and Claremorris. And I think you're getting kind of a different sort of style of film here that Tony Price, he not only was a line side person, but he was also very keen to record the people as well, such as the ticket checkers you can see here, as well as the signalmen, as you've already noticed. So arriving into Athenry, that's the main line from Dublin, and we're crossing the train, the equivalent working from Limerick. So that train is working from Limerick to Ballina. Now the up and down WRC trains made a connection with the up and down trains from between Dublin and Galway, and you'll see that the two WRC trains have to shunt out of the station to allow the mainline trains to cross. So you'll see B150 is reversing back into the siding on the Dublin side of the station. You'll notice that 150 has driven onto the line heading for Claremorris, and they are awaiting the up and down Galway trains. Mail trains, I think they are, yeah. But you can see the TPO behind B147. And here comes the train from Dublin behind a single cab GM diesel. So the train for Dublin departs, and you'll see that the Western Corridor trains then retake their positions in the station. And you can see the branch signal is off, and then Tony Price is going to reboard the train for the return working up to Claremorris. CIE school bus in the distinctive white and yellow livery, and now we're approaching Ballyglunin, and as I mentioned, you can see that the semaphore arms have crosses on them, indicating that the block post was switched out. As some of you may know, the station is nowadays owned by a community group, and they often hold particular markets and festivals on the platform as well as the track nowadays. So Tony joins the footplate, the driver. Again, unfortunately, I can't tell you the names of the CIE staff. So this is the view heading out of Tuam. And preparing to exchange staffs at Milltown, which we've already seen. The fixed distance signal for Claremorris South, and you'll see the train is held briefly before entering Claremorris station. That was the old Great Southern and Western Railway station and yard in Claremorris. Train from Dublin has already arrived. Freshly repainted in the Super Train livery, as you can see, number 192. This was taken on the last day of regular passenger services on the Western Rail Corridor in 1976, and we're at Gort, the main station between Ennis and Athenry. B170. Working the train from Ballina. A small group have gathered to see the last train. Although, of course, Gort still saw regular knock specials right until the early 1990s. And the end. So that concludes the first film of Tony Price.